Hello everybody, I'm Corey, and we're talking Manpower. Today I've got Mr. J.B. Brown. He's the Civilian Branch Chief for the Manpower Allocation Division here in the Pentagon. Mr. Brown, thank you very much for joining me today. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Corey.
So what is the Manpower Allocation Division? What is it responsible for, and why is it important?
The Manpower Allocation Division is part of the G1, and more specifically, it's part of the Plans and Resources Directorate. We manage the Army's overall military and civilian strength targets and control programs. We also work with OSD on military and civilian manpower and also joint defense activities. More specifically, within this branch, we establish the civilian pay costing rates, which we update twice a year. We also manage the monthly civilian execution, which we report to OSD and also quarterly to OMB as they manage the overall federal civilians.
It sounds pretty complicated. Is it a lot of coordination that takes place between the DoD and OSD level?
It's a lot of coordination. We spend a lot of time working with our counterparts at OSD, and also within the other services. We work with the analysts over there because it's one big Department of Defense.
Well, that sounds very challenging. I'm really pleased it's not my job, to be honest with you. What has been your most challenging and your most rewarding experience as a manpower analyst?
I think the most challenging part of this and any CP26 management analyst job is providing senior leaders with the relevant information to keep them informed and educated as they make decisions. And that has become very, very important over the last few years as we continue to draw down not only the civilians but also the military.
So it's funny that you mentioned downsizing, because it's my next question here. How critical are manpower analysts in helping with these downsizing decisions?
Very critical. We have an opportunity to shape decisions by identifying efficiencies and knowing where to assume risk, and that's become very, very key. There is no more low-hanging fruit for the downsizing, and so being able to identify efficiencies is really the best way to achieve some of the savings that we've had to take.
So how can we as a manpower community better prepare fellow management analysts for their role in this decision-making process?
I think experience is still the key. Interns rotate jobs, they get a lot of training, a lot of opportunities, and I think that is something that all analysts, all CP26 analysts could benefit from. There's always opportunities for details, for task forces. There's certainly lots of training opportunities, and I think as CP26 analysts, we need to take advantage of those so that we are fully prepared and fully educated about our jobs and about what we can do.
So it's kind of a lot like what the CP26 Proponency Office says a lot when they say, stretch yourself. Don't just, be solely focused on your one job. Get out there and experience the different aspects of the Army and the different aspects of what it means to be a management analyst.
Absolutely.
So let's switch gears here. You spent a lot of time working in Germany. So how does the role of a manpower analyst differ overseas than it does here in the continental U.S.?
Well, I suppose it depends on where you work. If you're working here at HQDA, you have many bosses. The Secretary of the Army, the Chief of Staff of the Army, and then all the way down. You're working for all of those people. When you work overseas, you're probably going to be working at a command, and so you have one boss. There's one 3- or 4-star general who's in charge, and he sets the direction, he sets the tone, and he sets the tempo. And I think that's sort of the biggest difference. Is your scope of work and the responsibilities.
So you can just make that vision a little bit more clear than sometimes it's watered down from the Secretary of the Army who has an idea and everybody else has got an idea, and it just makes it a little bit more clear sometimes when it's just that one guy.
Absolutely, yeah.
So how did going overseas help you gain a wider, more appreciative view of manpower analysts and of the Army in general?
I think mostly it was an opportunity to see a different aspect of the Army. I worked at U.S. Army Europe and 7th Army, and it was very interesting. Just knowing,
working on things like seeing how the SOFA agreements and things. I would assume that would be very, very interesting.
It is, and it's a completely different with the SOFA agreements for Europe and for Korea. These are rules and guidelines and that were established many years ago that are still in place now, and so it adds a whole new dimension and a whole new level of effort when you're managing those.
And it kind of goes without saying that a lot of coordination with the country that you're based in. You work very close with their army, correct? I would assume.
You do, absolutely.
And you keep them informed of all the types of decisions and stuff, so everybody's kind of on the same page.
Right.
So if a careerist wants to go overseas for this type of opportunity, how do they prepare?
Well, I suppose the one of the biggest things is to probably learn a little bit of the language. I think there's two aspects, two challenges when you take a job overseas. One is the job itself, which is going to be probably different than what you've been experiencing in your current job. But the other one is the cultural one, and that is that you're going to be many miles from your family and your friends, and you're going to be living in a completely different society and a completely different culture, and so you have to remain flexible and sort of go with the flow.
So you got to be kind of really open to learning the new way of life, kind of thing, and
exactly.
And kind of experience that thing, and that would probably, I would assume, give you a better grasp of when you're over there and how that mission's going.
Absolutely.
So then, what advice would you give to a CP26 member who's looking to develop their manpower skills?
Overseas?
No, just in general.
Oh, in general, it's a little bit of what we talked about earlier. Is to take advantage of the opportunities, take advantage of training opportunities. Get involved in things that may be out of your scope, maybe out of your knowledge depth, just so that you can broaden your horizons.
Well, very good. Well, Mr. Brown, I appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule. I'm going to take some of your advice here and prepare for that opportunity to work overseas by saying Dankeschön for joining us and talking manpower today. I really appreciate it.
You're very welcome, Corey. Thanks.
Well, everyone, that's all we have for this edition of Talkin' Manpower. I'm Corey. Thank you all for joining us. Thank you all for listening, and we look forward to our next segment. In the meantime, feel free to like CP26 on Facebook, which is facebook.com/ArmyCP26, for the most up-to-date news and information from Career Program 26, Manpower and Force Managers. Until next time, have a great Army Day.